I don't have any information on Skylar Diggins bumping into Caitlin Clark and going viral. If this happened recently, I suggest checking social media or news sources for more details. It seems Skylar Diggins was trying to provoke Caitlin Clark during the game, which upset some people. Sports can sometimes lead to heated moments like this. Fans have now exposed Skylar Diggins by digging up clips showing how she struggled to keep up with Caitlin Clark's game. Instead of staying focused, Diggins resorted to provocative antics, but Caitlin handled it like a pro, shutting down her critic with ease. Let me show you how Caitlin took control and silenced her hater.
Tell you, I have a Skylar Diggins Smith of her actually targeting Caitlin Clark, applying major pressure. I'm telling you right now, Caitlin Clark sent her through the ringer, dog.
Did you see Skylar Diggins' reaction? Based on her face, she probably wondered why screens like that are allowed in the game and should be banned. But honestly, what she thinks doesn't matter. Caitlin Clark once had her ear on the screen, but she didn't complain. Diggins was clearly frustrated by Clark's skills and tried to use dirty tactics to stop her. Instead of going for the ball, she started targeting Clark's hands, but it backfired. Caitlin was simply the stronger and more skilled player, pushing Diggins aside like she was no match at all. Diggins must have been having a rough day, or maybe even a tough season, because her behavior in that game was more like something you'd expect from a middle schooler upset after losing a recess game. Just look at her, clearly frustrated. As she pleads for a travel call, she was getting desperate. Diggins is clearly frantic, desperately looking for any opening, but it's obvious she's being outplayed by Caitlin Clark. She must have been feeling frustrated with her own performance. By this point, Diggins had realized that Caitlin couldn't be beaten fairly. She'd already tried some underhanded tactics, but nothing worked. That's when she decided to go for the shoulder bump. Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever was dominating the Seattle Storm, lighting up the court and thrilling the crowd. Meanwhile, Diggins was getting outplayed and, frustrated, resorted to what could only be described as a tantrum-driven shoulder bump.
You think that was an accident, Ocho?
Hold on.
That is no accident. She sped up.
Yeah, she sped up real quick. Hey.
As the game was winding down, Skylar Diggins charged to the sideline like a bull in a china shop and delivered a shocking shoulder bump to Caitlin Clark. Her actions during the crushing defeat to the Indiana Fever only highlighted the growing frustration and resentment toward Caitlin's dominance on the court. Watch as Skylar deliberately charges at Caitlin and delivers a bold shove.
Raise and shove.
The question is, why is Caitlin's nightly domination so hard to handle? It wasn't a full-on WNBA-style takedown, but more of a subtle move to show her irritation. It was petty, passive-aggressive, and the kind of action you'd expect when someone's frustrated but not bold enough to go all in. Caitlin barely acknowledged the bump. It was like a mosquito buzzing past her ear.
Y'all see the woman's speed. Y'all see her. Caitlin Clark is getting the crowd. Y'all see Skylar Diggins speed to make contact with her. Stop this. Y'all mad because that corn-fed our girl busting y'all ass. Y'all said she's too weak. She can't do this. She lead the WNBA.
While Caitlin Clark didn't react right away, the tension kept building, and it all boiled over after the shoulder bump. Skylar Diggins was so blinded by her frustration as she completely ignored the rules and sportsmanship, forgetting who she was up against, the Rookie of the Year. After the shoulder bump, Diggins had to be held back by her teammates. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark was having another record-breaking game, setting the WNBA record for most assists in a rookie season. She was also at the center of controversy, especially after breaking that assist record. Skylar, clearly unhappy about Caitlin's success, tried to provoke her, probably hoping for some reaction. But instead, she got the ultimate burn when Caitlin didn't flinch. As the game was nearing its end, with the Fever comfortably ahead, Clark was pumping up the home crowd when Skylar went out of her way to give her a little shove. That's when things got heated. The coaches from both teams got into it, with the Storm upset about the Fever keeping their starters in a game that was practically decided. Meanwhile, Caitlin, held back by teammates, telling them to win the Storm's game with the refs in the game's final seconds. Caitlin shot back with a sharp stop, crying, and the crowd went wild. Fans were laughing, and it turned into one of the most memorable moments of Caitlin's season, while Skylar was left with a bruised ego. Caitlin Clark usually stays cool and professional, but this time, Skylar Diggins pushed her too far. After all of Caitlin's success, Skylar's attempts to provoke her couldn't be ignored. Caitlin decided she wasn't going to let it slide. making it clear that she wouldn't tolerate disrespect. Based on Caitlin Clark's response, it's clear that Diggins must have done something really disrespectful to provoke her. And that's exactly what happened.
But whatever the case may be, there's something going on in Seattle with their players actually targeting players and pretty much getting aggressive, dog. As this investigation I will continue to bring you guys up to date.
Skylar Diggins' antics didn't just highlight her own frustrations, it also shed light on a bigger issue within the WNBA. For some reason, the league and certain established stars seem reluctant to fully embrace Caitlin Clark's rapid rise. It's almost as if they view her success as a threat, believing that her somehow takes away from their own legacy.
You recall, Caitlin Clark told the Storm to stop crying, had had enough. They're whining after the Fever got the best of them. Let them know that it was enough. No more whining, no more crying, no more complaining. Stop crying! And that's since become an iconic moment.
Let's be honest, Caitlin Clark isn't stealing anyone's thunder. She is the thunder, the storm, the entire event. It's baffling that some players and league insiders treat her like an outsider rather than embracing her as the future of women's basketball. Skylar's shoulder bump was a clear reflection of that growing resentment. It's hard not to think Skylar's actions came from desperation. While she's a talented player, Caitlin's rise has changed the game. Once a leading star in the WNBA, Skylar now finds herself overshadowed by the younger, flashier, and more marketable Caitlin Clark. And that's where the real issue lies. Skylar's frustration wasn't just about one game or one loss, it was about the shift in dynamics that Caitlin represents, a change that some players just can't seem to accept. Caitlin isn't just playing basketball, she's changing the game and the league itself. Let's not pretend this was just a one-time thing. Skylar Diggins' actions that night weren't simply a moment of frustration. They were a full-on meltdown disguised as competitiveness. Watching her sulk and lash out at Caitlin felt like seeing an older sibling realize the youngest in the family has now become the star at family events. Skylar wasn't just upset about losing the game, she was upset about losing control of the narrative.
Wynn knew full well what was going on effectively, stopping Clark from getting the double-double by pulling her team with 90 seconds left. The Seattle coach was unhappy that Sides, who's the head coach of the didn't immediately substitute at the exact same time. And then take a look at the video. Skylar Diggins Smith did
complaining, stop crying. And that's since an iconic moment, right? And we saw what happened with Christy Sides and Quinn that game, and it was one of the certainly of the Indiana Fever season. It came after Clark was celebrating on the court and Skylar Diggins Smith bumped into her, and you know, all chaos ensued from not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. And I think if you're a Fever fan, you had to revel in that moment, except for Christy Sides, who apparently didn't like it for some reason. But guess what? She's not a part of the.
But I'm just trying to. But Ocho, let me ask you this. I just saw Asia. Yeah. Ain't nobody walking into bumping into her.
Ain't nobody bumping Asia. You don't play that. Come on now. You know
they ain't bumping into Stewie.
But you know who?
My thing. If I'm Caitlin Clark, not to. If I'm Caitlin Clark, I'd have told Skylar Diggins, get your coat, your brim, and get on out of our gym. Get your coat, your hat, and leave.